Asibenzele sinemukele hleleni Kusile Belfast show sitawubuka tindzaba tetfu. Inkundla yakalamkapi ithi ibuke kusebenzisana netinkampani letahlukile takhelene nato ekuvuseni imigwaco lelinyatwa litulu onke malanga. Lokuvakale ngelunga lePhalamende lalenkhundla Dlamini lilingete nekuthi lokhu batawukwenta kwekelela uhulumende basite nesive. Imigwaco kulenkhundla ayikho esimeni lesihle ngenxa yetimvula letichubeke njalo nekuna.
Njengoba imisebenzi yahulumende yenabile lokwenta nokuthi naye uhulumende angakhoni kufinyelela kuwonke afeze tonke tidzingeko sikhatsi sinye, inkundla yakalamkapi seyibone kuchamuka nesisombululo. Lilunga lePhalamende lalenkhundla Dlamini lithi babone kusebenzisana netinkampani letitimele ikakhulu ekuvuseni imigwaco lengena emakhaya.
Timvula Diana left and right center every day Diana so ke lama gravel roads langena la khathe makhaya onakele kakhulu bantu nje lokuselina kakhulu nje bachiya imigwacweni bashiya bomakhelwane abasakhona ukufika emakhaya kophana nje siyinkundla sibambisena uhulumende semkhankasweni ukuthi nje ukusuka umnyaka uhulumende abe khona lapho asisita khona ngoba sivelesi sisifumile nathi ukuthi sibe khona lapha sikhone kunconcotha kuyena uhulumende nasetinye inkosi lokufaka ekhathi ke kulenkundla yethu sine tinkampani letingasi close nakhona sitawuhamba nje siyonconcotha ukuthi engabe njengabo makhelwane uhulumende naye asabuka ukuthi nguphi la ngasita khona kuvaleni imigwaco ngoba nabo bayabona umgwaco litulu lina onke malanga iyonakala lemigwaco so ke nje siyinkundla yakalamkapi vele satawusukumela etulu sihambe sinconcothe nakhona inkampani.
Lesive siyabonakala ukuthi sihle sezama kuyilungisa lemigwaco noko letimvula tibendela phansi. Dlamini uthi besaba ukuthi nakungendeka kuyekeleke kulungiswa lemigwaco ingagcine iba inkinga nasekuphitsitela abantwana bamikiswa etikolweni nasetivuliwe. Ndzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela ngina Fortune Dlangamandla sikalamkapi.
Sekuphele emalanga lamathathu sivele silinganiselwa etinkulungwaneni letisikhombisa letingaphansi kwemphakathi yasebuseleni nasehlobane enkundleni yaseNgwene singakhoni kubela lebhuloho lakumawelawela emfuleni umkhondvo njengaloko emanti yagijima etulu kwalo. Litiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla selikhiphe secwayiso sekuthi lokungenani imifula lesikhombisa kuleli igola tinthethe.
Njengalokhu leSwatini lichubeka nekutfola timvula letinyenti emanti emifuleni yakulela yachubeka nokuba manyenti lokwenta ukuthi agcine sekahamba ngetulu kwemabhuloho. Kungaleso sizatfu litiko letemcebo waphansi nemandla likhiphe secwayiso emaswatini sekuthi angalokotha wele noma abhukushe lapho khona emanti sekahamba ngetulu kwemabhuloho noma-ke kule mifula lenemanti lamanyenti. Lomunye walomfula ngumkhondvo lapho khona ngekusho kwendvuna yenkundla yaseNgwene Wongani Dlamini sekwente abantu labalinganiselwa etinkulungwane netisikhombisa abangasakhoni kufinyelela emtholampilo kanye nasemadolobheni.
But still ke kuyakhinyabeta ngoba labangale ngesheya ngale ababe basakhona kwewela. Ngenhlanhla lembi ke kude lenye indzawo labangewela khona sonke lesive lesingale. Sinengcinamba lenkulu ngobe ngale sibhedlela singalana kude nje sibhedlela singale ngesheya nasemadolobheni konke lokudzingekako kungalana inhlanhla kwanyalo tikolwa tivaliwe ngale kwaloko bothishela nje njoba nibona bethi indlela ukuthi bangaya esikolweni sine Mandulo High School ngale neMandulo Primary neTholulwazi Primary letulu nezamo kuhle Primary nanase yasikole ibaleni Primary nemiphakathi lokhona ngale ngaphandle kwalo munye wasehlobane lokhona le etulu lochamukela emkhithini nakhona amabloho agcwele. Ngiyakholwa sinikile nje neva lo ukuthi kwemukene abantu khona le enhla so lokukhomba kona ukuthi sinengcinamba lenkulu siyinkundla yaseNgwene bekungiko kona lokuqela uhulumende ukuthi nasi sive ngoba nyalo nje umuntu angafa umethwele uthi umphuthumise esibhedlela kude la ungamikisa khona ngayizathu sekuthi lelo leli lasisida but kwesikhashanyana nase kunalesimo lesinjengalesi asibe sisakhona kusitakala.
Ngaphandle kwemkhondvu lemunye imifula lese inemanti lachubeka njalo nekukhula nguloyo welisutfu losuke eBhunye ehlele esiphofaneni nase-Big Bend kube yimbuluzi lesuke empisi yotsimu lemlawula umfuli ngwavuma loselibulini lusushwana lolisuke ezulwini lwehlele kumathapha umfula yilomanti kumathamo bese kuba ngumfuli inkomanti losuka kumaguga ayotsimu laphansi kumananga Tinzabente Eswatini TV kubika Fortune dlangamandla nginathemba inkosi mavimbela sisemkhondvo.
Libandla lelibuketi incola letetfwala sive i-National Road Transportation Council libonga hulumende ngekuhlangabetana nesikhalo salo sokulimala kwemigwaco lobekwenta kube likhuni kusebenta kwaletimotolo. Sihlalo walelibandla Sihlanghlabathi uthi sebakhulumisene nelitiko letemisebenti lemikhulu nekutfutsa lelibachazele ukuthi litayisebenta kanjani lemigwaco.
Eminyakeni lophelile baqhubi betincola letetfwala sive bafaka tikhalo kuhulumende sinye kwakuyimigwaco lebengekho esimeni lesikahle labathi kugcina kulimata timotolo tabo. Hulumende ke sewucalile kulungisa imigwaco leyahlukene kuleli. Sihlalo welibandla lelibuketa incola letetfwala sive Sihlanghlabathi uthi balibandla sebakhulumisene nahulumende mayelana nekulungiswa kwale migwaco.
Hulumende wasukumela eDulu wasethembisa nje nasikhumbula kahle bekungidemand number petition yawe bekungipetition number 7 lekhuluma ngemigwaco. Hulumende vele walukhipha luhlwa lwemigwaco yatawucala ilungise ngiyakhumbula nje nabe kaqala ukususa lonke imigwaco losuka emafutheni uye emadlangembisi bese kulandzela abasenhlangano kodwa ke siphindze seva ukuthi na kunyalo litulu seliyana imigwaco leminingi seyiyalimala. Hulumende kuphindze wasitshela ukuthi cha uyacolisa ngemigwaco siyinhlangano ye-transport ukuthi imigwaco ilimele kodwa ke ulikhiphile kuluhlwa lokulungisa futhi leyo migwaco. Siyibonile ke leminye imigwaco vele sebayayicala bayilungisa kodwa leminye basina bayilungisa phindze yonakale basalungisa la konakale le lokusho ukuthi lelitulu lelikhona ngilo mhlambe lesitawuthi ngilo lelibanga mhlambe imigwaco ukuthi ingalungiseki. Singaba kubonga nje kuhulumende kakhulu kule mitaba letendeka konyalo. Siyethemba ukuthi nebashayeli betimoto wonke nje umuntu ushayela ngokucophelela uwatise ukuzivelela imigwaco even ayisiyo lemihle. Ngaba kunxusa nje ka-public transport ukuthi nespeed yasisehlise.
Leli bandla lithi timotolo letetfwala sive kuleli tilinganiselwa ku-6,000 kanti bantfu labasebenta kuto balinganiselwa ku-15,000. Etinzabente Eswatini TV kubika Nelson Dlangamandla kunambongwa Dube Kamanzini.
Sawutfolakele dokotela lowabikwa ukuthi wanyamalala ngayitolo kwaKhisimusi. Lona ngudokotela Kusile Msibi loneminyaka lenge-25. Mxhumanisi wesive namaphoyisa Superintendent Phindile Vilakati uthi lo dokotela utfolakale aphila.
Dokotela Kusile Msibi wanyamalala ngayitolo kwaKhisimusi emini yasekuseni. Amaphoyisa nemndeni wamsibi bahlaba umkhosi bacela sive sibafunise. Mxhumanisi wesive namaphoyisa Superintendent Phindile Vilakati uthi sewutholakele Msibi. Vilakati uthi Msibi utholakele eJericho kanti utholakele aphila. Vamile ke ukuthi kulamalanga abantu nabanyamalala emalanga lamanengi batholakale sebasishile emhlabeni. Vilakati ubonge sive ukuthi sibabambise ekufuneni nasekutholeni lo dokotela. Amaphoyisa ake aphuma ngetinkani ayofuna Msibi evikini leliphelile. Betindzaba lapha eveni babika ukuthi Msibi bekangudokotela eveni leNingizimu Afrika noko wabese uyayekela emsebentini etinyangeni letendlulile. Imibiko iyavela nekuthi uyekele emsebentini nje usebente tinyanga letisithupha nje kuphela. Lemibiko iyaveta nekuthi Msibi wathi uyekele emsebentini njengobe beseka nelubito lokushumayela. Kwabikwa nekuthi Msibi wathi sewufuna kubuyisa ingcondo yakhe yonke ekuthandazeni. Tinzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Themkosi Mavimbela. Titfombe titfolakale ku-internet.
Inhlangano wemabhange kuleli Eswatini Bankers Association ithi sivele singakakhoni kushintsha noma ukufaka emasheke aso emabhange lahlukene kuleli asithintsane nemabhange kubonisana ukuthi kungenziwa kanjani njengoba kubhadala ngemasheke kuvalwe ngemgcibelo. Lokuvakale ngambali Sibanyoni sihlalo waleli bandla ngesikhathi yachaza ukuthi kusukela ngemsombuluko emabhange angeke asawemukela emasheke.
Libhange lelikhulu kuleli Central Bank of Eswatini likanye nenhlangano yemabhange Eswatini Bankers Association ikumisile kwemukela nekushintsha imasheke emhlalulunye kulenyanga. Sihlalo welibandla lemabhange kuleli mbali Sibanyoni uthi lokhu kusho ukuthi angeke emabhange asawemukela imasheke kusukela ngemsombuluko kuleli viki.
Akusiyindlela yokuthi kumbe frustrate ema-customer but indlela yokuthuthukisa ngokuthi asifale sisebenzisa indlela leti safe enikaneni imali. So ukuthi-ke nangabe usesenalo lo shingo ngebangishito uyela kule muntu lokuyeketile akusebenzisele dona leto tindlela noma-ke uye ebhange lakho batakusipha uthi ngikhuluma kanjani. I think yonke into ihambe ithuthuke nalokhu nje nawo bese adulile lokwanengena but naloko ukuthi sekunendlela letingcono tokubhadala other than amasheke lama-customers angakusebenzisa lama-digital platforms.
Umbiko lokhishwe ngilamabhange uveta kwekuthi kumiswa kwemasheke emabhange kutawusita kwekuthi bantfu bangebelwa timali tabo futhi basheshe bayitfole imali yabo. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelsiwendla ngamandla nginambongwa Dube Yembabane.
Somnotho wakuleli nomsadla mini uthi emaswati labisha etikweletini awahambe ayocela lusito emabhange bese kuthi lawo lasengakangeni kuto athathise kucala emabhange. Dlamini ukusho lokhu nakaxoxisana nalomsakato elicingweni lapho bekaluleka sive ngetindlela lesingagwema ngazo tikwende kanye nokuthi angaphuma njani kuto.
Njengalokhu kusasuka umnyaka lo yobeyakathi ngisomnotho lomkhulu kahulumende lesathatha umhlala phansi nomsadlamini ululeke emaswati ngetindlela tekugwema kubisha etikwenetini kanye netindlela tekuphuma etikweletini kulabo lesebavele ngenhloko kudo tikwenete.
Kukhona lasebangakangena esikweletini, kukhona lasebangenile esikweletini kodwa angakangikhinyeki, sekukhona lo sebhela ngikhinyekile lo sangasati lutho. Laba labasuke bangakangena esikweletini kungcono lokuthi sebahlale phansi bacwaninge kwekuthi imali lengenako ingakanani lephumako yani bese uyakuhlela lokho ngebumcoka bakho. Indzaba nje ukuthi asesiyothenga emafrayini asakubeka eceleni asabuke ukuthi ngikuphi lokumcoka indzaba yebantfwana enitimali letingakanani kubathi kubo bonke lokumcoka ukuthi sebakhulumisane nalaba labaluleka nako ngetindzaba tetimali. Ungaya ebhange lakho bataku uphathe lonke luhla letimali lotikweletako nangabe uyakweleta nekuthi ukweleta bobani ende letimali letinye letiphumako njengabogesi borenti konke lokho labo baqeqeshiwe ukuthi angahlala phansi nawe atibuthe tonke tikweleti mhlambe tithathwe libhange bese lona liyakubhadalela sowubhadala umuntu munye. Kodwa kakhulukati nje lokumcoka ukuthi wathi ukuthi ngibhadala ini imcoka kangakanani. Nalokunye ke kulala bangakangene imcoka indzaba yokonga.
Indzaba yekubisha etikwenetini kwemaswati iyayivele kubeta indzaba lapho khona kuyaye kubikwe ukuthi kukhona abantu lesebatibulele ngato tikwenete. Etindzabeni te-Eswatini TV kubika Fortune Dlangamandla kanti tfombe tfolakele ku-internet.
Baholi bemabandla lehlukene bakhuthata sive ukuthi sisebende ngekutikhandla kuthuthukisa timphilo taso kulomnyaka singagathi ukuthi emathuba etena labanye bantfu. Labaholi bemabandla bakuvete lokhu ngesikhathi bethula umlayeto wabo lo esiveni njengoba bekulisondvo lokucala kulomnyaka wa 2022.
Njengoba kulisonto lekucala kulomnyaka abaholi bemabandla sebeluleke sive kwekuthi wonke umuntu utawukudla titfukutfuku takhe ngako sive yasitikhandle kutitfutfukisa.
2021 bekungumnyaka lolukhuni. There was COVID, the economy, the unrest. But we are hopeful for 2022. Kutsi kutaba nema opportunities lamasha. But ngacwayisa kubazalwane maswadonke. Kutsi there's nothing waiting for you ku 2022. Kute loku kulinzile ku 2022. You just have to go there and make it happen. Funa kuthi kube nguwe usebenze. Now uthe maswati nakithi asisebenzeni. Business ideas. Now when you gonna have petrol, ngeke waphila ngemiholo kuphela. Let's look at other streams of income. Uzamazame longa kuzame eceleni. Then we are going to be celebrating nakuphela nomnyaka.
The word of God is clear. If you do not work, you should not eat. You can pray in tongues all you can, but if you do not work, you should not eat. Work is not a curse. 2022 will be a different year for those who will work hard, those who will focus on Jesus, those who will get rid of sin. But 2022 will also be a same year like the years before for those who will live lazy lives.
Labaholi bathi indlela lengiyo yekuphila ukuthi wonke umuntu kube khona la kwendako kutitfutfukisa. Etindzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nelsiwendla ngamandla kunambongwa Dube ezulwini.
Kushone bantfu lababili ngetigameko letibuhlungu lapha eveni ngelilanga lokugcina lomnyaka wa 2021 nangale kucala lemnyaka wa 2022 lokhu kuvakala ngemchumaniso wesive nemaphoyisa Superintendent Phindile Vilakati. Letinombolo tehlile naticasaniswa naleto talabashona ngakhisimusi.
Kunebantfu lokuthe kusuka lomnyaka lomusha basishiya emhlabeni ngetigameko letihambisana nebucala. Umchumanisi wesive nemaphoyisa Superintendent Phindile Vilakati uthi kushone babili bantfu ngetindlela letifaka bucala lapha eveni kusukela ngalesihlanu. Vilakati uthi lo wekucala ushone ngalesihlanu ebusuku kanzi bekangugatsi. Lo gatsi kubikwa ukuthi ututshulwe ngumuntu lobekadingela ngalokungekho emthethweni dudane nelidibhi lasenkilongo. Kulesigameko lesi emaphoyisa sekabophe bantfu lababili. Ngakulokunye Vilakati uthi kahlatsi kumehlwa bovu kutholakele lijaha lelineminyaka lengemashumi lifile ngemgcibelo ekuseni. Vilakati uthi umufi utholakele nemanxeba lamanengi emtimbeni. Lo mchumanisi uthi sekuvele sekuboshwe noma ke sekuvele sekunebasolwa lababili lababoshiwe babekwa nelicala kulendzaba. Letinombolo tebantfu labasishiye emhlabeni ngebucala tikhombisa ukuthi tehlile naticatsaniswa naleto tangakhisimusi. Ngakhisimusi amaphoyisa abika ukuthi kwashona bantfu labalishumi ngempelasonto yalawo maholide. Amaphoyisa athi kufanele kube khona la kwendako kucinisekisa ukuthi letinombolo tiyehla. Lokhu kubonakele njengobe letinombolo setivele tehle kakhulu. Tendzabeni Eswatini TV kubika Nkosi Mavimbela kanzi tithombe titfolakale ku-internet.
Kuloko eMaswati lafise ukubona kwenteka kulomnyaka kufaka ekhatsi ukuthi kubebede imishico lehambisana neludlame kuleli. eMaswati akuvete lokhu ngesikhathi yaxoxisana nalomsakato lapho bebasho lokho labafise ukubona kwenteka etimpilweni tabo kulomnyaka localwako.
Kuyaye ukuthi njalo nakusuka umnyaka abantu bente tinqumo teminyaka lomusha lokufaka ekhatsi lokho labafise kwenta kulowo mnyaka. Lo msakato ucisene eMaswati edolobheni laseBhabane kuva kuthe ngabe bahloseni njengaloku umnyaka sasuka.
Kunengi kakhulu lenginako nje engqondweni noma lokukhona benginanasifo nje emnakethu lebesikhona eveni. Sekufuna ukuthi ngase sisijwayele sekuyinto lesesiphile nayo isikhathi from 2019 sese-2022 kusho ukuthi sesinesikhathi cishe sekubo 2 years solokukhona. Sekufuna ke sale ngigruma ini ngingena kule simo sale sifo. Ngingasafuni ukuthatha njengestage besihamba kwesitolo. Sale ngizama ukuthi lempilo yami ngingangena njani la kiyo ukuze ngikhone ukuchubeka nempilo. Uyabona? Ngichubeke nemsebenzi wami la ngikhona khona, whether ngiyagada noma ngendani but
sekufuna sale ngathi ukuthi imali inyalo nangiyithatha 10 rand umcobo akufuneka ukuthi ngithathe 10 rand ngazo sekuyinvo le useless. So kwami nje lokukhona simaswati ngufisako ngifisa ukuthi masingene kusho ukuthi ingqondo yethu ila singakunaki lokukhona even singamnaki udlongdlongo lokukhona thina busifake thina sisifo.
Ngifisa nje kuphele na i-COVID sibuyele esimene ngoba into ibulaye i-COVID nale imvula ke zivimbe yonke.
Kwami kokuqala ngingafisa ukuthi kuyekele kushisa live. Sibuyele siphile endalweni yethu labe sivele siyiphile. Nyalo mina ngihlala kabuhlungu, ngilala kabuhlungu, ngilala ngincenekile.
Ingane zethu ibuyele esikolweni ukuze phela ngoba lizwe izwe ngeingane.
Thola umsebenzi lomusha sibambane nje kahle eveni. Phela nje yonke le nto etiteleka kube kahle.
My New Year resolution is to make more money. Yes, and try to create more job opportunities.
Sibandula abasha bona singaba nalokubuka kalela ukuthi senza kanjani kube khona lesibabhizi ngako singabi nje abantu abavuka abahlale dodwe yabo.
Noma letinqumo teminyaka lomusha ema-New resolutions tiyaye tifake lokho umuntu lafise kwenta ayedwa ukuthi athuthuke empilweni. Kodwa labo labakhulumisana lo msakatho bavete ukuthi bafise ukuthi imisindvo lehle icubuka kuleli iphele ithinya kuti impilo itawubuyela esimeni lesetayelekile. Tindzabente Eswatini TV ubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginathemba inkosi Mavimbela Sisembabane.
Le Young Buffaloes libe ingcenye yamaqembu lacale kahle umnyaka wa 2022 ngemuva kokuthi lishaya ivovovo ngeligoli linye ecanzeni. Lomdlalo bewudlalelwe enkundleni yakalanga eStegi.
Kube nomdlalo munye ke wenziwe eMthini Premier League lodlalelwe enkundleni yaseStegi kalanga elangeni lesibili eminyaka lomusha wa 2022. Young Buffaloes ithula netulu nevovovo kanzi esigabeni sekuqala lamaqembu lamabili akhombe ukudlala kahle ke abanemandla kodwa ke kude lekhona kushaya igoli saphela kanjalo isigaba sekuqala ngelicanza ngalana ngelicanza ngale. Esigabeni sesibili buye ngamandla iYoung Buffaloes yathola lelihle lelishaya ngokuthwala kwakhe. Phela kanjalo inqobile iYoung Buffaloes ngeligoli linye ecanzeni. Lobekela umsakade Eswatini TV temidlalo ngilinda Dlamini na Fabrice Msonera eStegi kalanga.
28 minutes past 7 sibesa lapho tindzaba tetfu lomhla ekseni asibahlela timakethe nasibuya sitawubuka leto ethamba imbili kulamanye emave.
Bukela luhlelo Tandla nenkondlo lapho kuba khona bosonkondlo kanye nalabenda umsebenzi wetandla lo wehlukahlukene. Kuningi lotokufundza kulolu hlelo njengobe utawubona ukuthi tiningi tindlela tekwakha imali nekutiphilisa. Hlanganyela nami Fortunate Mabuza njalo ngelisonto nga 5:30 ntambama eluhlelweni Tandla nenkondlo.
Ungelithandvo, ungekwatana, ungekuhlalisana, ungebungani. Lutsandvo lukhona. Ungaphuthelwa lapho tithandzane tihlangana ticoca ngokuthi kodwa tahlangana njani, impilo iquba njani emshadweni, kodwa vele lutsandvo lukhona yini. Kungako sithi love exists.
Emandleni umfata miyashaya kubona.
Wangidlula ke. Ngathi wangicabuza asumananga.
Ngaqala ngakushikilisa babe. I forgot to mention that one. I really didn't want this guy.
Love exists. Lutsandvo lukhona.
Welcome back mbukeli selobukela hlelo Kusile Breakfast Show asikuvusele nawe sikwemukele lo sanza kusivulela lesikhathi sisabuka lethu lethamba embili kulamanye emave kanti sicala ngalena ya News Eve emave lamanengi endemicimbi leyahlukahlukene kungena eminyakeni lomusha wa 2022.
New York City wants its New Year ball drop to be perfect, so there is no skipping the rehearsal. Under COVID, large gatherings can be risky. So for many, the rehearsal is the only chance to see festive traditions.
My hopes for next year? Definitely trying to get out of where I'm at. And I definitely hope to, come back here again next year. Right? What's your hope for next year?
I hope I get a bunch of Pokemon cards.
New York City has maintained festivities, but people will have to wear masks, and only the vaccinated can attend. In London, Big Ben will chime 12 times after being largely silent for 5 years due to restoration work. But the traditional New Year concert and fireworks are cancelled. In Rio de Janeiro, fireworks are back on, including at the Copacabana beach, but other festivities have been called off. Brazil was one of the countries hit hard by the pandemic, but infection numbers have been down for weeks, so tourists are back.
People are cognizant of wearing their mask. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing mine now, of course, but I think they're doing a great job as far as preventing the spread of it. So doesn't look too bad to me right here.
Authorities in cities across the world are trying to find the right balance between allowing people and businesses to enjoy New Year's Eve and remaining cautious so the pandemic does not spread.
Kanti eveni lase-China, live lase-China emaphoyisa aparade estradini bantfu labang-4 labaphule umthetho wokulwa nekwanza kwemkhuhlane ye-COVID-19.
Public humiliation for those who jeopardize the country's zero COVID policy. 4 men in hazmat suits, handcuffed and tightly guarded, accused of illegally bringing foreigners into China's borders, which have been virtually closed since March 2020. Local police hung placards from their necks with their name and picture and paraded them through town. State media criticized these scenes, saying the practice has been banned since the 1980s, but the pandemic has made draconian measures commonplace in China. Xi'an has seen its 13 million inhabitants placed in lockdown for a week, with food delivered to each household every 3 days. Not enough for some, who then turn to social media. Local authorities admit food delivery has been affected by the restrictions, and the priority is given to mass testing. 160,000 people mobilized and a huge new testing center built.
2组可以达到25万挂。按照10比1的混检的模式的话，我们每天的筛查人员可以达到。
The result, a number of daily cases only a fraction of what can be found in other countries. On Thursday, just 224 people tested positive in the mainland. When it comes to COVID in China, the end justifies the means.
Mengameli Joe Biden wasemelika kanye namengameli Putin wase-Russia babe nemhlangano elicingweni lapho bebatsingitsa khona indzaba yekungevani lokuthola ukuchubeka eveni lase-Ukraine.
And now, round 2. U.S. President Joe Biden last spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin less than a month ago. The two spoke again on Thursday, and Biden urged Putin to de-escalate tensions with Ukraine, the White House said, after the 50-minute call ended. The high-stakes phone call came as the Russian leader continues to amass tens of thousands of troops along the Ukrainian border, as seen in this video released last week by the Russian Defense Ministry. Biden administration officials have said that the two had a serious and substantive discussion. But a senior administration official said, when asked, that Putin made no declarations as to intentions. High-level officials from the two nations will again meet in early January in Geneva, without the two presidents. Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelensky, tweeted Wednesday that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken vowed full U.S. support for Ukraine in countering Russian aggression. Earlier in December, he toured the front and said his soldiers were ready. Although analysts seem to doubt Putin will invade Ukraine, they worry that tens of thousands of battle-juiced troops in the region could accidentally or intentionally spark a war.
If he is bluffing, then it is a very serious bluff, which entails particular risk to Putin, because he has to make sure that 100,000 troops plus are occupied and ready, but not taking the initiative themselves before an order is given. So I think that it is just simply a situation that is fraught with peril on both sides.
So now what? The White House has said repeatedly that there will be significant consequences if Russia invades, including harsh economic sanctions and increased security support for Ukraine. But some analysts say Putin is just posturing.
Successfully creates a sense of emergency. If you notice, the language is almost the same. He's about to start a war. He's about to invade Ukraine. And apparently the White House goes for it. I wouldn't because as I wrote and I also spoke about this, Putin is not going to invade Ukraine at this time. He's playing to his domestic audience. All of this is a part of the game that Putin is playing, and I think will continue to play at least until his elections in 2024.
The next round of bilateral talks starts January 10th in Geneva. Until then, will things stay quiet on the Ukrainian front?
Eveni laseSudan amaphoyisa kanye namasotsha adubule i-tear gas kulabo bebateleka ngelisondvo batelekela ke idemocracy kanti ke kuloko kuteleka i-internet ivaliwe.
They want an end to military rule. Street protests against October's army takeover show no signs of abating. An army crackdown on demonstrations has resulted in dozens of people killed and hundreds injured. Protest organizers say 2022 will be a year of continuous resistance.
We completely condemn powers such as arrest, search and arbitrary arrest. This is the last card used by the ruling council because they fear our freedom. Arrests will never break our resistance committees. They will arrest us, but we will not give up until we achieve civilian rule and an end to military rule.
The coup leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, said on Saturday that Sudan faced existential threats that could not be ignored.
Individuals with authority, along with the current conflict which has resulted in loss of life, damage to property and disruption, mean we have to arbitrate the voice of reason and agree to dialogue.
His mention of individuals with authority was an apparent reference to civilian Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok. He was first detained by the army and then reinstated. His release and pact with the army has not convinced protesters there will be a transition to full democracy. They say the military must play no role in government on the road to free elections.
Kanti ngekusho kwama-analysts impilo esulichubeka esifundeni sase-Sahel kubukeka kwangathi itaba matima kakhulu kulomnyaka losetulo wa 2022.
2021 marks the 9th year of conflict in Africa's Western Sahel, and in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, violence has only gotten worse. This video, recently posted online, purports to show a terror attack on a military base in northern Burkina Faso that killed almost 50 military police in November. Fatalities from the conflict between state forces and armed groups linked to Islamic State, Al-Qaeda and criminal gangs are up 18% last year, according to data from the Armed Conflict, Location and Event Data Project. The humanitarian impact has been huge, with close to 3.4 million now displaced as a result of the conflict, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. Amadou Agli from Burkina Faso fled the north of the country around 3 months ago after terrorists attacked nearby villages. He says he has a message for the world.
We are living very hard times, and I appeal to any people, NGOs, governments around the world who can help us. We have a food crisis, a housing crisis here, and the children cannot go to school.
The year also saw a shift in the region's military structure, says Paul Milley, an analyst with London-based think tank Chatham House.
Start the process of moving towards a new pattern of French deployment where the Sahel armies in the G5 Sahel military structure are much more the frontline face, if you like, with the French in a more of a backup and special forces role, air support, intelligence.
France, which had 5,000 troops supporting Sahel security forces at the beginning of 2021, has said it will reduce the number to 3,000 by early 2022. Escalating insecurity has also plunged Sahel governments into political turmoil. Mali saw a coup by military leader Assimi Goïta in May. The West African political bloc, ECOWAS, along with France, have put pressure on Goïta to hold democratic elections in 2022. Protests against the government's handling of security in Burkina Faso in November forced the government to reshuffle military leadership and the cabinet. One analyst said this of the political situation in Burkina Faso.
What people are concerned about is the ongoing insecurity and the state of the security forces. So if that doesn't improve, then no, the change in government certainly will not be enough to appease the opposition.
Attacks in Burkina Faso's border area with coastal West African states, including Benin and Ivory Coast, raised concerns the instability could spread.
I do think at a minimum it's something to really be concerned about, it's something to watch out for, and something to actively work against.
Meanwhile, in Niger, the emergence of civilian militia groups to fill the security gap could play a big role in 2022. According to another analyst. In other Sahel countries, they've been used to assist the military, but have also been accused of human rights abuses.
We've seen this in southwestern Niger recently, kind of community violence, which is spiraling and driven a lot by non-state armed groups. We see this in Burkina Faso as well, where we have the state, in fact, relying on groups like this.
After a difficult 2021, the Sahel conflict looks set to get worse as the new year begins.
Sisiyeveni laseGermany, iGermany sememeteleke ukuthi itawuvala hafu wema-nuclear plants awo lasasebenta.
The final plumes of smoke from the chimney at the Gundremengen nuclear power plant. As of January 1st, this reactor in southern Germany will be closed for good, along with the plants in Grunde and Brockdorf in the north of the country. That leaves just 3 nuclear reactors in operation, and they will be shut by the end of 2022. The move to phase out nuclear power was made by former Chancellor Angela Merkel a decade ago, in the aftermath of the devastating disaster at the Fukushima power plant in Japan. Now employees at the 3 German power stations will begin the long process of dismantling the reactors.
Remmingen, was die Gewerbesteuerzahlungen angeht. Wir haben sehr gute und sehr solvente Firmen auch hier noch vor Ort, die weiterhin mit Gewerbesteuer bei uns mitzahlen.
Germany aims to have renewable energy such as wind and solar power account for 80% of its output by 2030. In the meantime, the country plans to fill the gap with natural gas. But prices for the fossil fuel are rising rapidly as Europe contends with an ongoing energy crisis, made worse by tensions with Russia, the bloc's key gas supplier. And Chancellor Olaf Scholz is facing another challenge. The phasing out of nuclear power could impact the government's goal of reducing CO2 emissions. The ecology minister has warned that Germany will miss its climate targets for 2022 and possibly 2023.
Eveni lasemelika Mengameli Joe Biden nakangena kulesikhundla sekuba ngumengameli wangena nemlayeto ukuthi America is back. Kanti ke mabhalane wahulumende Anthony Blinken yena wathembisa ukuthi utawusebenzisana kahle nalamanye emave. Asisibukena kumbiko kubuka ukuthi ingabe lokho kuwendeke kanjani eminyakeni wa 2021.
Hopes were high among many American allies and observers around the world as veteran diplomat Antony Blinken was sworn in as the 71st U.S. Secretary of State in January.
It's a new day for America. It's a new day for the world.
Speaking to State Department staff on his first day, Blinken set high expectations.
The world is watching us intently right now. They want to know if we can heal our nation. They want to see whether we will lead with the power of our example, if we'll put a premium on diplomacy with our allies and partners to meet the great challenges of our time, like the pandemic, climate change, the economic crisis, threats to democracies, fights for racial justice, and the danger to our security and global stability posed by our rivals and adversaries.
But the promises in January were met by a hard reality on the ground. A February military coup in Myanmar, followed by a violent crackdown on tens of thousands of protesters, the July assassination of Haiti's president, and an October military coup in Sudan are just a few of the international crises the Biden administration has dealt with in 2021. The United States is also working to help end the year-long conflict that began in the northern Tigray region in Ethiopia, where millions now face famine.
I do think the Biden administration has made a tremendous effort to engage diplomatically on this issue with the appointment of Special Envoy Feltman, a great deal of high-level attention, but none of it has really delivered a change in behavior. And so now, we're at the precipice, really, of a sense of collapse in the Ethiopian state.
Despite foreign challenges, analysts say U.S. President Joe Biden and his close confidant Blinken have been successful in their key goal, repairing what they see as critical relationships and alliances damaged by former President Donald Trump's America First worldview.
By and large, I think they've been able to stick to their broader game plan from having President Biden go to Europe in the spring and try to deepen partnerships and alliances with our European democratic allies, and similarly in Asia as well, to try to rally countries that were a little uncertain about where the United States was going.
But analysts say America's chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in August tested the Biden administration, along with France's angry response to a submarine deal between the U.S. and Australia.
The alliance with Europe has been repaired. There have been hiccups along the way, for sure. Afghanistan and the AUKUS submarine deal are two pretty big hiccups, but the alliance is functioning much better.
As 2022 approaches, China and other U.S. adversaries are watching to see how Biden and Blinken handle the massive Russian military buildup along Ukraine's border, and whether the United States honors its commitments to the territorial integrity of its allies.
Kanti-ke James Webb Telescope soqala uhambo lwakhe lwekuya ku-space, kanti-ke lolu hambo lolubeka solo waligadze sikhathi leside.
This week, NASA at long last launched the James Webb Space Telescope. Its mission is to search the cosmos for the very first stars and galaxies and possible signs of life beyond our solar system. The Space Observatory is now en route to its final destination some 1.5 million kilometers away.
This is an Apollo moment for NASA, right? It's a huge, ambitious project. This took 40 million people hours at a cost of approximately $10 billion, decades of development.
Scientists have called this part of the mission 29 Days of Terror, as the month-long journey is beyond any distance possible for humans to fly and make repairs. Once positioned, the massive Webb telescope will spend the next 5 months unfurling and orienting itself for the mission, which you can track at webb.nasa.gov.
Liftoff.
In other news, we recently reported in this segment about NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART for short. The spacecraft's mission is to crash into an asteroid to see if one headed for Earth can be knocked off its course.
We all gotta die, right? I'm the guy who gets to do it saving the world.
This comes straight from the plot of Hollywood movies like 1998's Armageddon with a twist. This is only a test, and DART's target poses no real threat to our planet. NASA recently released these images taken from the craft some 3.2 million kilometers, just 11 light seconds from Earth. They may not look like much, but the navigation team uses the stars to determine the craft's exact location, and this is considered a major milestone. DART will reach its target in September of 2022. Finally this week, churning away at the Solar Foods facility in Helsinki, Finland, is what developers say is a nutrient-rich protein made from thin air. It's called Soline, and it's grown in a fermentation tank from a single microbe. The process draws carbon dioxide and water from the air with hydrogen split from the water using electricity. A recent study shows the world's food systems as driving more than a third of global greenhouse gas emissions. Without the agricultural process, Solar Foods has near zero carbon emissions and was recently selected as one of the winners of a NASA Deep Space Food Challenge.
Kanti siyachubeka netindzaba tethu takulamanye imave live kuba khona kwemkhuhlane COVID-19 kungedete inkinga letikhona eveni lasemelika njengoba inkinga lenkulu nyalo ababhekene nayo kuba bede bo driver bemaloli labenele.
I never seen you before. You're not Puerto Rico.
Truck drivers needed, flexible work hours, high salary. These ads are becoming more and more common in the U.S., where 70% of all goods are transported cross-country by truck, according to American trucking associations. According to local truck drivers associations, today there are roughly 80,000 job openings for truck drivers. Yuri Shalak has been working in logistics for a trucking company for over 16 years, and he says the pandemic has made things significantly worse.
The average age of truck drivers in the US is 47. Those who are over 60 simply retire, and there are not as many younger drivers coming in.
Shalak owns a trucking dispatch company in Chicago and has about 150 drivers and truck owners working for him. He says in the last 2 years, there's been an increase in the logistics workload because more Americans are ordering products online. But the trucking industry hasn't changed to accommodate a changing world.
They're consistently underutilized by something like 40%. The way we conventionally schedule our truck drivers for pickup and delivery, and then the way we treat them with a particularly low value on their time.
A truck driver's workday is strictly standardized. Drivers are permitted to spend no more than 11 hours a day driving. They must move quickly to load or unload their vehicles, or they lose work that day.
There's a lot of frustration, a lot of a sense of disrespect. Drivers talk a lot about, respect.
On average, U.S. truck drivers are paid a decent salary, about $25 an hour. So it's no surprise many try their hand at this job, but not that many end up staying.
Statistics in America show that every year a trucking company will have a totally new team of drivers. That means those drivers who joined in January won't be there in a year. So owners of these companies need to try hard to make people stay.
The Biden administration hopes to decrease the shortage of truck drivers by opening more training programs for drivers. For example, programs that target former military personnel. But experts say it is proving increasingly difficult to motivate people. The situation is different for self-employed truckers. Dmitro Knatyuk has been working as a truck driver for over 13 years.
I'm self-employed. I drive my own truck. And for me, the situation right now is actually pretty good. Compared to the last few years, this year I had one of the highest transportation rates I've seen in the last decade.
And Knatyuk adds, despite the potential difficulties, he's been happy with his work.
On average, our salaries are 2 to 3 times higher than the US median.
Experts believe in the next few years, the shortage of microchips needed to produce cars and trucks will not go away. So in the near future, the price of transporting goods, as well as prices for these goods, will only go up.
Kanti njengoba umnyaka sowuvele sowucalile sekusho kona ukuthi nemicimbi yokuklomelisa ama-actors ama-Oscar Awards nawo sowuvele sowududane.
I never seen you before. You're not Puerto Rican.
Steven Spielberg's remake of West Side Story is inspired by the 1957 Broadway musical of the same name. Spielberg says the story about two young star-crossed lovers from ethnically different rival gangs in New York City is as relevant today as it was more than 60 years ago.
Divisions between unlike-minded people is as old as time itself. And the divisions between the Sharks and the Jets in 1957, which inspired musical, were profound, but not as divided as we find ourselves today.
One of your own kind, stick to your own kind.
The film is expected to garner Oscar nominations, says Variety's Film Awards editor Clayton Davis.
And we'll find a lot of love also in the acting races because Ariana DeBose, who plays Anita, is playing the same role that Rita Moreno played 60 years ago. And if she wins, which it looks like she has a really good shot of possibly doing, she'll be the second Latina to ever win supporting actress.
Psychological thriller Nightmare Alley, directed by Guillermo del Toro, blurs the lines between what is real and what is not. Bradley Cooper plays anti-hero Stanton Carlyle, a drifter on the run who joins a traveling carnival. The star-studded cast includes Cate Blanchett. Del Toro co-wrote the script with his wife Kim Morgan.
It reflects the anxiety of these times. It feels, that, at least that's what we felt writing it and doing it.
A lot about the American dream, which is something that still exists and is something that's very hard for people to attain.
And the flip side is always a nightmare.
Yeah.
Adam McKay's dark satire Don't Look Up hits home as a massive comet threatens to destroy Earth. Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence play two astronomers trying to persuade the world to act before it is too late.
There's a comet headed directly towards Earth. You know how many the world is ending.
Meryl Streep plays the demagogic American president who plays down the catastrophic threat. Clayton Davis says McKay's satire is all too real.
I laughed for the first 30, 40 minutes, and then I stopped laughing because I said, oh no, this is too real. Because this is tomorrow.
Feel-good movies, such as King Richard, are favorited by critics and audiences.
Right now, people are looking to not be depressed, especially now when there's a surge in cases again.
The biopic chronicles how tennis players Venus and Serena Williams, two black girls from the rough Los Angeles neighborhood of Compton, rose to superstardom through the support of their family and the tireless coaching of their father, Richard Williams. Will Smith produced the film and plays the lead role.
I think Will Smith is really in play to win an Academy Award there.
Venus Williams told VOA that the film champions black girl power.
The film was shot beautifully. All the action sequences were amazing. Of course, our family was very prominent in it, and I'm very excited that this film is hopefully going to inspire a lot of people.
Another critic's favorite is Belfast by Kenneth Branagh. Set in the capital of Northern Ireland, the film, inspired by Branagh's childhood, chronicles the life of 9-year-old Buddy in 1969. Branagh told VOA that despite the political and sectarian violence surrounding Buddy's life, the film focuses on family ties and community.
I think the film looks for a sense of compassion and respect and recognition and celebration of people's differences, something that is a tough subject for everybody right now in a polarized world.
All right, it's 1 minute before 8 o'clock. Ngaleto siphetha lapho uhlelo lethu la namuhla. Sisembe ukuthi nikuthokozele kuba nathi senaba nelsuku loluhle nalolubususekile. Nitsale kahle.